this! Tar sands is not crude! Are you listening?
Okay, actually, you hold it like this right here.
Oh, right there. Okay, yeah.
What we're here about mainly today is because of Jerry Patterson. There were a number of things last week in which he referred to the tar sands blockade people as eco-anarchists and a bunch of other unkind or ill-intentioned, I should say, ways. I'm just going to go through his editorial and just correct the errors. He says that one of his jobs as head of the General Land Office is to protect the environment associated with state-owned land. Well, what about privately owned land? What about the residents of East Texas and that whole area who depend on that aquifer and the other bodies of water through which that pipeline is going? So we'll get back to that in a minute, whether he's really protecting the environment or not. The way he puts it is, he says that he learned that a bunch of out-of-state self-appointed eco-anarchists think they know better than Texas. Now, I'm not from out of state. I've lived here since 1965. I know a lot of other people who are also opposed to this pipeline who are lifelong Texas residents. And I'm not sure whether people pointing out the fact that this pipeline being from out of state is really relevant anyway. I think there's a lot of grandstanding in it on this, and I think there's short on the facts. He says that this construction will create thousands of jobs and lessen our dependence on foreign oil. Well, how many jobs it will create is debatable, and yes, it is creating a number of construction jobs. That is true. And like any construction job, they're short-term, so let's be clear on that. These are not going to be around for a long time. Most of the employees of this pipeline, long-term, are going to be TransCanada employees. Lessening our dependence on foreign oil, this tar sand, which is not oil, is going to be converted into basically a kind of synthetic oil, which will then be sold on the world market. Now, that adds to the overall amount of oil on the market, and it will help the whole prices down. We got to ask the question. We've reached the point where we are having to resort to mining tar sands. That should tell us that the readily accessible crude oil is running low, and we need to be seriously thinking about transitioning to other energy sources. All right. He says that TransCanada has worked responsibly to ensure it has the legal authority and regulatory approval needed to build the pipeline. Well, yes, it does. They managed to get a lot of people to rubber stamp that approval. One thing that should be pointed out is that normally the EPA has to do the environmental impact assessments of these kinds of projects, but because of it crossing the border, it turns out the State Department did it. And what did the State Department do? They farmed that environmental impact study out to a company which has TransCanada as a major client. Now, if that's not a conflict of interest, I don't know what is. He says that they will diligently work to restore property to its original condition. I asked the farmer whose vineyard was destroyed, how well they're going to restore that to its original condition. They'll put the dirt back, but it won't be restored to its original condition. And there's no way you can bulldoze all these trees and restore property to its original condition. It's just not possible. And he says, along the way, the company has treated Texas landowners with integrity and respect. That's completely untrue. I have a Fox News article here that says that in the minds of some landowners approached by TransCanada for land, the company has broken an unspoken code. Nearly half the steel TransCanada is using is not American-made, and the company won't promise to use local workers exclusively. It can't guarantee the oil will remain in the United States. It is snatched land. And insulted Texas landowners and filed dozens of lawsuits. Oil and agriculture lived in peace for a long time because a one-time payment from a pipeline company or monthly royalties from a rig can help finance a ranch or farm. And it says in the past, these oil giants also respected landowners' independence, and they would try to work with them. But this foreign company, TransCanada, has not conducted themselves that way. Many of the landowners' lawsuits in Texas are about TransCanada's common carrier status. Common carrier is, by having a common carrier, that's the only way they can exercise eminent domain. Whether this is a common carrier pipeline or not is hotly debated. It really doesn't appear to be so. This pipeline appears to be designed to do only one thing, and that is to move TransCanada tar sands from Oklahoma to the Gulf Coast, where it will be refined. Basically, there is plenty of evidence that a lot of the landowners are not happy about the way they've been treated by TransCanada. Even one example of someone who basically says that he is satisfied. He still says that he feels that they bullied landowners, and this is in an article on Fox entitled "Texas Landowners Take a Rare Stand Against Oil and Opposing TransCanada Project." And once again, it must be said, we are not talking about oil here. We are talking about tar sands. It is a strip-mined, tarry substance that has to be mixed with carcinogenic chemicals, including benzene, in order to make it flow through that pipeline. It needs to be said that the northern part of this pipeline, which has been in operation for 2 years, has already spilled more than 100 times TransCanada's projection. Another company, Enbridge, had a horrific tar sand spill into the Kalamazoo River, and they can't even clean that up. I mean, they've tried, and Enbridge has been ordered to try again, but it's basically just a terrible situation. And that's what we have in store for us here in Texas, and in fact throughout the whole mid part of this country. If this pipeline is completed and that tar sand starts to flow, even a simple pinhole leak can just spill massive amounts of this tar sand before it's discovered. A landowner discovered a huge spill from a pinhole leak. Now, TransCanada says that they have an automatic leak detection system in place, but it cannot detect leaks of anything less than the level of that Enbridge spill. We're talking about something like 750,000 barrels per day that can spill without being detected by this automatic detection system. Now, what good is that? I mean, that's really only going to in real time detect the most catastrophic of leaks. So let's see, what does Mr. Patterson have to say after he claims that they have treated Texas landowners with respect? It needs to be said also that we have at least 2 examples of whistleblowers coming forward, one Canadian and one American, who have exposed TransCanada's less than stellar safety practices. And he says, like all Texans, that's untrue. I expect TransCanada to meet high expectations regarding environmental and safety standards. It's hard to see how he could really say that, given TransCanada's record already with the Keystone 1. He says he's a proponent of responsible energy production and an advocate for private property rights. Now, I don't see how he really could be an advocate for private property rights when he's referring to them in disparaging ways and supporting a really dubious of eminent domain. He says he expects TransCanada to continue to treat landowners fairly and respectfully. Well, that hasn't been done, so I don't see how they can continue. Oil production. That's brought a lot of money into this state, a lot of prosperity. No doubt. But you know what? This is not Texas oil production. These are not Texas oil companies. These are not going to be Texas jobs. What this is doing is putting the agricultural lands and the water on which 1 million Texans depend at risk. It's going through the Carrizo-Wilcox Aquifer, which is the third largest in Texas, and a number of other bodies of water. And, you know, this material that the bitumen itself and then the fill bed, which is the diluted bitumen, is diluted with these chemicals that make it flow, corrosive. These and we know that